Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at Wake Up America Show. Good morning, all you hundreds and hundreds of beautiful people. Nice to see you here. How you feeling today? It's Wednesday. That means we're halfway there. And when you got almost 800 people watching your stream, I think you're no longer living on a prayer. Please, can I have some more views? Thanks so much to rumble.com for featuring us up front and center here on the Wake Up America show with you and me and the 123 or so, however many people are out there today. We can definitely help spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty much more successfully now. We're grateful and glad to have you here. Click like, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content that you're watching today. Let's get this show on the road. Well, the Real Clear Politics Average just dropped this morning, show a hypothetical matchup between Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. And well, we may have a future President Donald Trump. Is he going to pull a Grover Cleveland? And of course, you know me and my relentless optimism. I'm going to look on the bright side of things. I've been kind of dour and dismal about our chances next year, but I don't know. Let's look on the bright side of Donald Trump possibly becoming president of the United States again. Is he going to govern from prison? I don't know. We'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. And then New York City Council announces that they're looking into removing statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And I've got the news articles that show back when the media, of course, was lying and gaslighting us about the fact that, oh, they're never going to come after Washington and Jefferson. It's wrong to compare the removal of statues like Robert E. Lee to George Washington. Well, guess what? Here we are, just a couple of years later, and now they're talking about removing those. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes as well. At 7:30 a.m. this morning, I'm excited to have Senator Bill Eigel. He's also running for governor here in the state of Missouri. He got in pretty hot water with leftists here online when he and fellow Missouri Senator Nick Schroer took flamethrowers to a pile of boxes. Lefties were freaking out because the boxes were supposed to be an effigy of those porno books that the lefties are trying to put in public schools, not just here in Missouri, but all around the rest of the country. Anyway, so Bill Eigel, who's running for governor here, pulled the stunt and got people fired up, you might say, when he and Schroer took the flamethrower to the video. And Twitter, I guess, or X.com now, decided to suspend Bill Eigel's account for 12 hours? Yeah, they did that to me back when I was running for Senate here in the state of Missouri as a Republican. And I posted a GIF from Twitter's own archive. You know, when you go to post a GIF and you just pull it from Twitter's archive of Joseph Stalin saying off to gulag now. Well, Twitter leftists took that as an actual credible threat, as if I have a gulag somewhere here in Missouri. Yeah, we keep it in next to the chicken coop back at the farm in Missouri. You know what I'm saying? And I got a 12-hour suspension for that. But Senator Bill Eigel is going to be joining us this morning at 7:30 a.m. live. We're going to talk to him about this and the dust up and why he got in trouble and what he thinks about getting clamped down on his free speech online. Interesting. We'll talk to Senator Bill Eigel this morning, gubernatorial candidate as well. He's no goober at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. At 7:51 this morning, well, this is a no simp zone. If you watch the Wake Up America show, you'll know that despite the fact that we do have lots of lovely ladies here on the Wake Up America show, you Tuesdays and Thursdays, Camellia, the lovely Daniela Pensack, and on Fridays, we've got my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife. This is still a no simp zone. We love our ladies of liberty. We treat our ladies of liberty kindly and with respect, but absolutely no simping.
God!
And
No,
Lauren Bieber,
God, please,
her
no,
ex-husband,
no,
posted this apology
no,
note on
no.
Facebook, apologizing to her and to everybody about his public divorce. And I was just like,
How
ugh.
dare you?
It's like, no, please stop with this gross simping, this public excoriation, this self-flagellation, I think is what the Catholics call it. Although self-flagellation was something else when I was in high school. Anyways. We'll talk about that at 7:51 today. Judge Andrew Napolitano will be joining us today. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Y'all love big brain time, don't you? For those of you who might not know, every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Time, Judge Andrew Napolitano, the host of the Judging Freedom podcast, who's an old friend of mine, we worked together back at Fox Business. I was an associate producer of the show Freedom Watch. Does anybody remember Freedom Watch? Well, the funny thing is about that, too, about Freedom Watch, is that I actually have a fellow producer and writer for the show Freedom Watch, will be joining me at 8:30 a.m. today. It's his first time joining us on the Wake Up America show, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the immigration crisis. Did you see this video from Louis C.K. where he made the argument for open borders for the United States? Because he said, and I don't think he was joking when I showed Stephanie this video last night, Louis C.K., it didn't seem like he was joking when he was saying that the reason why we need open borders is to make the United States worse. The problem, of course, with the idea that he might be joking about that is that if he's joking, then you might assume he means the opposite. But I'm pretty sure he doesn't mean the opposite. I'm pretty sure that he was being serious when Louis C.K. appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast the other day and said the reason why we need to let floods of migrants into the United States is to make the United States worse. Somehow Louis C.K. has actually made the worst opinion when it comes to immigration of all time. Anyways, we're going to talk about that this morning with Todd Seavey. He was a fellow producer and writer on the show Freedom Watch with me and Fox Business back when we both worked with Judge Anna Napolitano. Judge Anna Napolitano is going to join us this morning at 8 a.m. to talk about the 14th Amendment of the Constitution and why leftists are saying that Donald Trump is ineligible to run for president of the United States again because, well, of the 14th Amendment. But let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Over 1,000 people watching. Are you kidding me? Don't threaten me with a good time. The Wake Up America shows every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time, and you can join us any day, Monday through Friday. We'd love to have you come back and join us for On the Regs. Make sure that you click like and subscribe to the channel that you're watching this morning if you like the content. All right, well, I'm a relentless optimist. I'm always the type of person who sees a silver lining in every cloud, right? And despite the fact that I've been a little dour or dismal, if you will, on the chances of Donald Trump running and winning the presidency again, because, well, one, if Donald Trump is right and the Democrats cheat, they're definitely going to cheat again, right? And then two, I think there's a lot of people who will crawl over broken glass to vote against Donald Trump. Most of those people have uteruses, but nothing has really changed since then. However, if Donald Trump is going to be the presidential nominee, and I think that that's probably going to be the case. Sorry, DeSantis supporters, it's not that I don't like him. Hell, I'm probably going to vote for Vivek Ramaswamy in the primary, but I think Donald Trump's probably going to win. And if that's the case, well, does Donald Trump actually have a chance? Well, Real Clear Politics seems to think he does. As a matter of fact, when you take a look at the polls weighted here, Biden versus Trump general election, the latest ones have dropped, shows with Donald Trump with a very slight lead, 45.1 over 44.6. And you could say, well, it's kind of early. You never know how these things are going to shake out. And that is absolutely true. However, I think that hold on. If somebody says, turn up your volume, I can't hear you. I'll tell you what, I'll turn up my volume just for you. Give me a second, lady. Uno momento. How's this? Is this a little bit better? A little bit louder? That is as loud as this is as loud as that microphone gets. There you go. So let's take a look at what might be coming if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States again. Let's look at all of the best of Donald Trump. There were a lot of good reasons to support Donald Trump. There were a lot of good reasons to say that Donald Trump deserved a second term, and maybe he's going to get his second term. This speech that he gave in front of the United Nations, to me, I think was a representative of some of the best of Donald Trump. And maybe the best days are yet to come. Maybe this isn't the end of the American Republic. Maybe we can turn our economy around. We can get Bidenomics out of there. We're going to wash that man right out of our hair. We're going to wash.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
All right, we'll compare that to this.
The greatest in the United States Constitution is its first three beautiful words. They are, we the people. Generations of Americans have sacrificed to maintain the promise of those words, the promise of our country and of our great history. In America, the people govern, the people rule, and the people are sovereign. I was elected not to take power, but to give power to the American people where it belongs. In foreign affairs, we are renewing this founding principle of sovereignty. Our government's first duty is to its people, to our citizens. to serve their needs, to ensure their safety, to preserve their rights, and to defend their values. As President of the United States, I will always put America first.
I mean, I think that that's the best of Donald Trump. Hey, I see that you guys are fighting over the mic volume in the chat. I restored it back to where it was. I apologize for those who are like Robbie and others who are a little bit hard of hearing. You're going to have to max me out because I am maxed out on volume, and also clipping is another issue. Volume for podcasts is just an absolute nightmare if you don't know. So apologize that I can't please everyone. If you'd like to have your thoughts and opinions registered on the show, you can always text us and let us know what's on your mind at 573-319-1586. Again, you can text the show today. Let us know what's on your mind at 573-319-1586. When I voted for Donald Trump in 2020, I had to do so on the basis of policies, because a lot of people vote for politicians based on their personalities. They like this candidate, they hate that candidate. A lot of times people go to the polls because they're voting against a particular political candidate. I can't do that. When I vote for someone for president of the United States, I have to have a very specific set of policy reasons for doing something like that. So I asked before the election in 2020 if anybody could help me put together a list of accomplishments that Donald Trump had made that would make people like myself, who are more liberty Republicans, feel better about voting for Donald Trump. Because certainly I think that the left has become a unique threat to our liberties. And I'll tell you this, that the list that Robbie Starbuck came up with and shared with me, I think was actually a terrific list of Donald Trump's accomplishments that had merit for liberty Republicans like myself. Trump's accomplishments when he was president of the United States. Not all of these are the kinds of things that liberty Republicans like myself are in favor of, but a lot of conservative Republicans are, and I think that it bears mentioning. Now, this list that I have of Trump accomplishments, I'd be happy to share with anyone who's interested. And if you're interested in grabbing a copy of this 25-page document, obviously I'm not going to have time to get through all of these. I'd be happy to share it with you if you want to share with me your email address. So just send me a text with your email address and say, hey, Austin, I'd like to take a look at this document from Robbie Starbuck. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Trump signed lots of bills for Native American people, giving compensation to the Spokane tribe for the loss of their land in the mid-1900s. So he did a lot for Native tribes. He also created the Space Force as our sixth military branch. And while liberty Republicans like myself can quibble about the need for a new military branch or bureaucracy, I think that there is an actual argument to be made for the need for a Space Force for the wars to come when the American people finally start to colonize space. It is a discussion that future people will be having, and it's one that we might as well just breach right now, because we've already created a Space Force. And I have someone who is a good friend of mine who's in the Space Force right now, and she's a liberty Republican, and she makes a very good argument for why they need to exist. Let's not quibble over that right now. Trump signed a law to make cruelty to animals a federal felony so that animal abusers face tougher consequences. Now, I don't agree with making more felonies over things like this. I think that animal cruelty laws should be state laws, but I know a lot of people believe in these kinds of things, and whether or not you agree with it, these are legitimate accomplishments. While Donald Trump was in office, violent crime was actually falling. Wouldn't that be nice to actually have crime falling instead of increasing? Yes, crime was falling every year that Donald Trump was in office. Donald Trump also signed a bill making CBD and hemp legal. That is a liberty Republican issue, on December 20th of 2018. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. We're glad to have you here, and I am thankful to have you as an audience member. Make sure that you click like and subscribe to the channel. If you're wondering what we're talking about right now, I was comparing Donald Trump's record. We're looking at I was comparing the poll numbers of Donald Trump to Biden, and it looks like Donald Trump actually, with weighting the average of all of the polls that are out there, the official polls, Real Clear Politics shows Donald Trump with a very slight lead over Joe Biden in a hypothetical 2024 matchup. And so in my relentless optimism, with my relentless optimism, I'm trying to look on the bright side of things with a chance that we might actually see a Republican president sweep Bidenomics away and restore our American economy. Because, God, are we not hurting? Have you gone and gassed up lately? I think I paid $3.79 a gallon yesterday for gas in Jefferson City. I live in a poor town. I don't know about you, but I live in a community that is rather impoverished. And if I'm paying $3.79 where I live in Jefferson City, I don't know. I don't even want to know what they're paying in California. I don't even want to know. Somebody texted me the other day what they were paying in Boston, and I already forgot. But it's a hell of a lot more than $3.79 a gallon. Some people said that I think that it was like $5.50 a gallon in California. That is a direct result of the type of policies that are anti-fossil fuel policies that the Democrats put in place immediately. As soon as they won election, the Democrats put anti-fossil fuel policies in place. And another reason why I like Vivek Ramaswamy so much is because one of the things he leads with is fighting back against the climate cult. Can I get a shout out for Vivek Ramaswamy? Put your hands in the air. Wave them around like you just don't care. Vivek Ramaswamy out there talking about drill, baby, drill. We need to frack. We need to burn coal. We need to build nuclear power plants. Give it up for Vivek. Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy, he's my boy. Do we have any Vivek Ramaswamy fans? I'd love to hear from you out there. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Corey and Callie says 549 to 609. Grover Bentley, how the hell are you getting $3.69? Nice. Yeah. In Kissimmee, Florida. I'd love to know. Quest Fanning says it was $3.79 in Brooklyn. What the hell? Why are we in Poor Town, Missouri, paying the same amount as people in Brooklyn? That is just not fair. That is not fair at all. Anyway, so we're talking about Donald Trump's accomplishments because my optimistic side is trying to look forward to brighter days for the United States back when the United States was great, and I would love to make America great again. If Donald, and I have said on the show that I have never worn a Make America Great Again hat, right? But I will wear a MAGA hat, and I will put it on this show, and I will wear it proudly if Donald Trump picks for his running mate not Carrie Lake, but Vivek Ramaswamy. I just cannot do it. I cannot deal with Carrie Lake.
No, God, please,
I know that she's big in the GOP
no,
circles and stuff.
No!
But I don't see it. I get strong grifter vibes. I know, and I shouldn't say that. I should try to get along with everybody because I know that politics is a business, and I'm losing out on business by criticizing people in my own party. You're not supposed to say anything unkind about Lauren Boebert getting groped up at the theater. When in reality, I don't care about her getting groped. I was just mad that she's singing along at the musical and being loud and obnoxious and distracting people when they paid a lot of money for those tickets. Okay, because I'm an elitist son of a bitch. But I'll say this. I will say this. I don't think that Carrie Lake is a good vice presidential pick for Donald Trump. I think he might pick her, but I think that the reason why he might pick her is because he's not so great at picking people to work for him. He might continue that because I think Carrie Lake won't outshine him. And I think that the fear with Vivek Ramaswamy is that Vivek might outshine Donald Trump. I just, if it's Carrie Lake or something, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, I just, no antics. Vivek is smart. He could take on the left. Did you see what he did? I played this a couple of weeks ago, this clip. Did you see what Vivek Ramaswamy said about Representative Ayanna Pressley? Remember, she's like the bald black chick in the Squad. Well, apparently she was talking about Vivek Ramaswamy, and she says that we don't need more brown faces that don't represent brown voices. And Vivek Ramaswamy came back, slapped her down, and was like, "Shut up, you bald bitch." He's like, what did he say? He goes, "Oh yeah, he called her the face of the modern KKK." Where's my evil laughter? So I like Vivek like cake, but I know a lot of people say Vivek like snake, but a lot of those people are DeSantis supporters who are really butthurt that Ron DeSantis is not doing better in the polls. And who knows? Here's my problem is that I think that we actually suffer from too many good choices in the Republican Party at this point. I like Ron DeSantis. I like Vivek Ramaswamy. I kind of like Donald Trump. He's not my first choice, but he's probably going to be the choice. So, you know what? We got to play the hand as the cards are dealt, baby. We're going to have to deal with the world as it is, not as we want the world to be. We got to fight the battle. Sometimes you got to fight the battle where you're at because the enemy surprised you, and you're just going to have to fight the best that you can. We'd all love to be able to pick the hill that we want to fight and die on, but at the end of the day, sometimes they got the drop on us, okay? And the Democrats cheat, and the Democrats are liars, and the Democrats are going to do everything that they can to win this election. They're going to be trying to cut our throats at night, right? They're like the thieves. If I don't know if any of you play Dungeons and Dragons, but like the Republicans are like barbarian class, fighter class, paladin class, and then you've got the Democrats, which if you're into Baldur's Gate 3, you could tell I'm playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons these days. But the Democrats are like rogue class, right? Like urchin class. They're wizard class, or like more like warlock. We'll keep the wizard. I like wizards. So sorcerers and wizards can be in the Republican side, but like the warlocks, necromancers, Democrats for sure are necromancers, right? Using their black magic to raise the dead, and right from hell, the spawns of Satan, right? So that's the thing, is that the Republicans have got to realize that these are the kinds of people that we're playing against. So you've got to build up a party of paladins that can use their light magic against the necromancers who are going to be raising zombies from the dead. So you got to have lots of fire spells, right? Because you got to torch the zombies. Oh, wait. Speaking of fire spells, I know a wizard who knows a pretty good fire spell, and he cast it the other day against leftist necromancers, and they've been freaking out ever since. And he's going to be on the show in less than 10 minets. Senator Bill Eigel. Take a look and a listen. Here he is, casting a spell.
3,
what a great segue, Austin.
1.
Look at that. He's got a plus 10 against ogres and communists.
Wow!
You got a wizard and a sorcerer right there.
5.
There it is.
4.
See? There you go. That's the kind of magic that you need to use against the black magic evil of the left. I just want to say, I did not write that segue where I would start talking about Dungeons and Dragons and then perfectly segue into a fire spell with Bill Eigel. That was just all right there at the last minute. I just made that up as I was going. It's a genius. Big brain here. Big brain on this guy right here. So if you like this content that you're watching and listening to right now, you might want to like and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on right now. It's awesome to see 1,700 people watching us on Rumble. What's up? Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We're grateful and glad to have you here. We're definitely going to be talking to State Senator Bill Eigel. He's the man who was in that video, the wizard casting the spell, the flame spell against leftist necromancers. Again, he's got a plus 10 against communists and zombies. We're going to be talking to State Senator Bill Eigel here in less than 10 minutes. But before we do, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Lear Capital, who are the reason why I'm able to stay in business, because I know that advertising can get annoying for some people, but we should sort of be celebrating this, right? Because if it weren't for Bidenomics, there'd probably be, if Bidenomics wasn't here, we'd be having a whole slew of shows all day long. We could afford to have 4 or 5 more shows coming on right after the Wake Up America show, and that's the plan. I'm trying to build a Liberty network here, and Lear Capital is investing in me, and so I want to talk to you about them and why it's a great idea for you to invest in them. Because when you invest in them, you're investing in me. They have got an awesome special going on right now, $500 account credit if you're investing in gold and silver, or if you're looking at investing in gold and silver. Today's a great day to give them a call at 1-800-885-2175. Again, that's 1-800-885-2175. I believe in Lear Capital so much that I recommended it to my mother-in-law. Now, do you think that I'm the type of man who is so suicidal that I would recommend an investment to my mother-in-law? Because do you know what would happen to me if she lost money or if they were bad business dealings? Yeah, I would be an ex-son-in-law, So that's how you know that you can trust me and trust Lear Capital, because if I wouldn't recommend it to my family members, I wouldn't recommend it to you. You can only get the $500 account credit if you call that number. So I suggest that you write it down right now, real quick before we go, because I'm getting ready to transfer over to Bill Eigel. But write that number down, 1-800-885-2175. That's the only way to get that $500 account credit that I'm talking about. If you're just interested in learning more, you can sign up for a gold and silver information packet at that website, learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. Go ahead and visit that website today. Get signed up. They'll send you a free gold and silver information packet. But the only way to get that $500 account credit to get your investing in gold and silver started is to call that number, 1-800-885-2175. Thank you very much, Lear Capital, for sponsoring this show. All right, well, State Senator Bill Eigel's coming up next. Don't go away during the commercial break. When I get back, I'm going to talk about that man. What was he burning? Was he burning books? That's what the left was accusing him of. Didn't look like books to me. And also, the left doesn't seem to understand the proper use of the word literal. Maybe it's because of their public schools. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Donald Trump and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados avocados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Well, things haven't been so sweet for Ben & Jerry's after the company posted an anti-American tweet, a few of them, on the 4th of July. The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have "Glad You Came Out" and "I'm so happy that you're queer" in the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hafer doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.
Oh my God. What are they doing? Are they burning books? Good morning, I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. 1,800 people, what is going on? You guys trying to give me a heart attack or something? Come on. Glad to have you here. If you're enjoying the content you're watching this morning, don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel so you can get updates whenever we go live. The Wake Up America shows every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central. I'm super excited to see the massive influx of the new audience members here, but we'd love to see you back here again tomorrow morning. So make sure you click subscribe before you go today so you can get updates and join us again so we can rise in freedom fighting 5 days a week. We don't take the weekends off so much as just get ready for the next week's freedom fighting. Well, we love to have freedom fighters on our show this morning. Joining us now live is the man that you saw in that video. He was suspended from Twitter for 12 hours over that video. What the hell is going on? Don't we have free speech in this country anymore? Joining us now, state senator and gubernatorial, but no goober, candidate here in the state of Missouri, Bill Eigel. Good morning, Bill. How are you doing today, sir? Nice to have you here.
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me.
All right, so give us a skinny here, Bill. You take a flamethrower to what? A bunch of boxes, right?
Yep. It was a pile of empty cardboard boxes. I can assure you and all your listeners that no actual books were harmed in the creation of that video. And yet it didn't take but a minute for every leftist on the planet, it sounds like, to decide that we were, in fact, burning books. And they spread that lie so quickly around the country, around the planet, that we didn't even barely have time to respond. And on one hand, I'm certainly disappointed that everything that made that video go viral was a lie, but I'm not surprised. I mean, these leftists, the truth doesn't matter to them. The truth has never mattered to them. These are the same folks that are saying that men can get pregnant. So truth really doesn't have a place in these people's minds. And so that's why it spread so quickly. Now, earlier this week, when this clearly was going viral all around the country, we got a lot of inquiries, and they were asking me questions like, would you ever burn books? Would you ever support burning books? And I made the point that, one of the concerns that a lot of people in Missouri have are these pornography books and materials that are getting into our schools and our libraries. And, if I were the governor of this state, and the only thing standing between the children of this state and getting their hands on pornographic materials was a bonfire on the governor's mansion lawn, then listen, I was going to do what I needed to do there. But we're talking about vulgar pornographic materials and protecting children from this type of material. There's nothing I wouldn't do to protect those kids, and that's who I'm going to be as governor of the state.
Okay, I get it. So you're making a statement here about what the left is trying to do with our kids in schools. I don't know if you saw the video recently of that senator from Louisiana, Kennedy, where he was actually reading from the book Genderqueer in a Senate hearing, and people were claiming that it's inappropriate. Well, I've seen this happen at school board meetings where they're reading from these books and they shut them down. You get demonetized on YouTube if you read it, and yet they want it to be read in schools. It makes no sense, does it?
No, it doesn't make sense. In fact, just last night, Austin, here in St. Charles County, one of the largest Republican counties in the entire state of Missouri, there was a public outcry at a local library board meeting because when one of the branches here in Spencer Road, pornographic materials were found. There was a book. The title of the book was called "Bang Like a Porn Star." That's the title of the book, and it includes all sorts of sexually explicit material. So we're not talking about great works of artistic endeavor here when we're talking about what would we do to keep these out of the hands of kids. We're talking about first and second graders getting their hands on some of the most sexually explicit material that anybody in our country had ever thought of. And as governor of this state, if my only choice was to allow those kids to get their hands on that or burn those books on the front lawn of the governor's mansion, I'm going to go with the latter. So we've got to be bold about protecting our kids, man. And I Austin, for as long as I've been in politics, for the past 7 years, everybody on the left and many in my own party have just consistently been attacking me for taking quite frankly firm and bold stands on this, and I'm going to continue to do that. I don't care what names they call me.
Yeah, nobody would defend you harder than I would, because I've known you, Bill, for several years now. And even back when I was running for Senate in 2018, you were a vocal supporter of my campaign when a lot of people were fighting against me, of course. And you were out there saying, hey, Austin's a good guy and he fights for limited government. Being a Liberty Republican in the GOP can sometimes be like, being the ugly girl at the prom. You know what I mean?
Are you saying I'm an ugly girl?
No, I'm saying that you're like the prom king who dances with the ugly girl.
I tell you, certainly we have a real problem with the status quo in this state in the Republican supermajority. It's a status quo that's kind of been co-opted by the swamp in Jefferson City, and that's why government has continued to get bigger in this state. In fact, we're spending, Austin, we're spending more money in Jefferson City than we've ever spent before. We're more dependent on the federal government in this state than any other state in the union. And because we've done that, we've allowed that to happen, and Republicans have allowed that to happen. Republicans in Jefferson City, we are stagnating as a state. People are moving to the other big red states. They're moving to Tennessee or Florida or Texas. And I think all those states are great, but I just think Missouri ought to be a leader. And I'm out there trying to bring attention to the issues that, as I go around the state of Missouri and put 40,000 miles on my truck talking to Republicans, they're telling me about. People are furious that Republicans haven't addressed property taxes or personal property taxes. They're furious that these pornographic materials are being put in front of their kids in the schools and the libraries of this state. And they are so upset that I think that in 2024, we've already seen this we've already seen change come to the school board elections around this state. We've seen them come to state Senate races around this state. 2024 is the year where I think it's going to happen in the statewide election, where we're finally going to elect someone that isn't going to be beholden to the swamp that is holding this state back.
Love to hear it. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. Nice to see you here. We got a lot to celebrate. This is now the highest rated show ever, highest rated show I've ever done. And the Wake Up America show just crossed 2,000 viewers. We've got 2,063 people watching us live right now. Huge audience. All right, no pressure. No pressure there.
Congratulations. This is a great day.
Thank you. It's a great day. Absolutely. A great day for freedom. So don't forget, if you're watching the show for the first time, which I know many of you are, make sure that you click like on the stream and subscribe to the channel so you can get updates when we go live every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show fights for economic freedom and personal liberty. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm joined now by State Senator Bill Eigel. He got in a little hot water, apparently, for burning an effigy, a bunch of boxes with a flamethrower, the types of pornographic material that the left wants to put in our schools. We've been talking about that, but I want to talk to you, Bill, about what happened on X.com. Elon Musk, who took over Twitter and turned it into X.com, claims that he wants to make it a platform for free speech. So when I saw you were suspended, I said, what gives? What happened?
Yeah, so we were notified, I think it was around 5 o'clock a couple days ago, that our account had been permanently suspended. And that if we wanted to, we were more than welcome to try to appeal that decision, but that we were going to be suspended for, in their words, inciting violence. And so, but for me saying, apparently burning cardboard boxes is inciting violence by the initial look that X gave this. And I want to make clear, we did not submit an appeal I think it was several hours later when we were removed from suspensions. We had not submitted appeal. So nothing had been done on our end. X, to their credit, came to the realization that they had made a mistake, that we were doing nothing of the sort, and reinstated my account less than 12 hours later. Now, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad for that they came to that decision. I think what they were experiencing was kind of the mass reporting of, it could have been millions of leftists all over the planet. I mean, this is a story that is being reported in Paris, France this morning. I'm seeing the posts on Twitter or X right now, X right now, that are written in French for the French newspapers in Paris. I mean, this is a story that has gone so far that really exemplifies the culture war that's going on in this country right now and in our state. So it's amazing. I'm glad to see that X did the right thing, but yeah, they kind of caved to a little bit of censorship pressure there, and for a few hours we were not available.
We got to keep an eye on them, because certainly if you were a left of center, if you were a lefty and you were burning copies of Ron DeSantis's book or Donald Trump's Art of the Deal, I'm sure that they would not have done the same thing to you. But you've probably paid attention to the lawsuit by the state of Missouri and Louisiana against the federal government for clamping down on free speech. Have you been seeing some of the results of that case out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in Louisiana, Bill? Have you been following this?
I've been following a little bit, and of course, there are so many lawsuits that are in work against the federal government right now. It's kind of hard to keep track of them all, but this is an issue that is at the forefront of our political discussion right now. If guys like me are prohibited from getting our message out and violating my free speech rights, and if that's okay, if that's tolerated by government, then our government is no better than the tyrannical government that we gained our independence from more than 200 years ago. So, I mean, we're seeing, Austin, look at the examples that we're seeing in our country, in America today, of tyranny. Look at the governor of New Mexico, right? Last week, the governor of New Mexico decides that through executive fiat, she can arbitrarily cancel conceal and constitutional carry protections in New Mexico state law. Did the New Mexico legislature step in and impeach her for that? No, it's a Democratic legislature. Did the state courts of New Mexico step in and stop her from doing that? No, it had to be a federal court that came in and said that they were doing that. But if that's okay, if executives, if the kings of our states, as we see in a state like New Mexico, are allowed to arbitrarily decide which rights will be protected and which rights will be trampled, we are finished as a republic. And the left right now, they are absolutely terrified. The reason this has gone viral, the reason the lies and the attacks are coming my way, they are terrified that a guy like me might become the governor of a state like Missouri because I'm the one that's going to kick over all their apple carts. They know that I'm not going to take any of their grief, and I will take every bullet coming the way of the 6 million people here in Missouri, and I will take those bullets on their behalf with a smile on my face as I get up early in the morning. So they are terrified of that because in Missouri, we haven't had that kind of leader. We haven't had that kind of fighter that's going to really be willing to stand in the breach. And I think that the people of the Show Me State are so desperate. They're so desperate for that person to come along and be who they promised they would be in campaign season. Be that person. And as you know, for 7 years, I've been that person. So I think it's going to be a very exciting political discussion over the next 11 months. I'm expecting them to attack me more. And honestly, I'm ready for it.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, the voice that you're listening to right now is State Senator Bill Eigel. He's also a gubernatorial candidate here in the state of Missouri, running to be the governor. He got in big trouble, hot water, when he took a very hot flamethrower to a bunch of boxes and left his online claim that he was, quote, literally burning books. Literally. I guess they didn't even pay attention to those in those public schools that they love so much, because that's not really what literally means. It's actually metaphorically. We can talk about that later. I went to public schools back when public schools were pretty decent. Ray-Pec High, graduated in 1999. And I also get a vote in this primary bill, and it's going to be, at the moment right now, I think the only declared candidates are you and Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. And then there's like talk that Jay Ashcroft might be running. Apparently he's raising a lot of money, but we haven't heard from him officially yet. One of the big issues that I'll be voting on, Bill, and I wonder where you stand on it, when it comes to schools, is the issue of school choice. Are you pro-school choice or anti-school choice?
Always have been. Pro-school choice, that is. Sorry. I missed that last second of the
yes
question.
No. I'm always no. Always pro-school choice.
Yes. No. I'm pro-school choice. I'm pro-empowering parents. You know, as I've been in the legislature, I've been the sponsor of legislation to expand charter schools in this state. I voted for. Not many of them make it. Not many of the school choice bills have made it through the legislature, but certainly I voted for everyone that has. And I will continue to be an advocate for school choice. I would add, though, and highlight to you that there's a second piece to this equation on education, and I think we have, and that is the bureaucracy of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in this state. That bureaucracy, DESE used to be an office of 6 individuals whose only job was to send checks to the local public schools from the state. Well, now there are 2,000 people that work in that office, and they serve as basically an authoritarian oversight bureaucracy that's forcing some of this DEI, the CRT junk down into the public schools. And they have become this oversight board that's also taking money from the federal government and taking federal regulations and enforcing on them at the local level. So in many cases, it's tying the hands of local school districts. So I'm going to be the breaker of bureaucracies. I'm going to be the guy that's going to come in here and reform DESE. And I want to let me clarify that. When I say reform DESE, I'm talking about defunding DESE, not defunding schools, defunding DESE. So yes to school choice, yes to breaking up that bureaucracy, yes to free, yes to freeing. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. So yes, I'm on board. The answer to your question.
You're on board. Yeah, no, somebody left this decapitated or this amputated hand on my computer desk tomorrow when I came into the studio. State Senator Bill Eigel, you're a hero for liberty. You're running for governor here in the state of Missouri. You take flamethrowers to leftist propaganda. You're fighting back against the left harder than anybody else here in the state of Missouri right now. I salute you, sir. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners? Perhaps a plug or your website before we let you go today?
Yeah, if folks like what they hear, they can help out. Go to my website, BillEichel.com. We have had 30,000 individuals sign up on that website to be a part of the team. And the response this week has been amazing. I don't think we've ever had as much statewide recognition as we have, as we've kind of been at the forefront of the discussion this week. So it's a great time to go to BillEichel.com and sign up to be a part of the fight.
There you go. Hey, Bill, congratulations on all that free press the left is giving you, and best of luck in your campaign, sir. Thanks for standing up for freedom.
Thanks, Austin. We'll talk soon.
Thanks very much. That's State Senator Bill Eichel. What did you think? Send us a text. 573-319-1586 is the text line. Again, you can let us know how you feel about what's going on in the world, or what you think about our guests and topics at 573-319-1586. Again, text lines are open. 573-319-1586. Yeah, I don't know where this came from, but I walked in this morning and it's like, not only is there the amputated hand, but also, hold on, here, let's see here. Oh, hi, I'm Missouri's only president, Harry S. Truman. I nuked Japan, and I'd do it again if they messed with us. Don't mess with Missouri, because we'll fight for your liberty, and if anybody dares mess with us, then we'll nuke them. God bless Harry S. Truman. All right, well, I have to say. If you're enjoying the content this morning and you want to continue to join us, don't forget we are every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time on the Wake Up America show. Ding dang it, it's almost exhausting how much fun we're having here. With 2,100 people watching us, that's definitely the high water mark. So if you don't click like and subscribe, then Greta Thunberg will haunt your dreams.
How dare you?
She'll come and get you. So if you don't want to have bad dreams at night, no, I know, don't panic. You know what we'll do is if you don't click like and subscribe, we're going to send pervy Joe Biden after your daughters.
Look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady with her legs crossed.
That's right. There's only one way to make America great again, and that is...
From now on, it's going to be America first, okay? Yes. America first.
Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate you very much on that one. All right. Well, in the vein of America first, you know what makes America great? It's AR-15s. They like to say nobody needs an AR-15, and yet this next clip that was shared by our friend Anthony Cumia online yesterday is probably a good reason why we need an AR-15.
From the backyard and snuck in using police-like tactics, making sure they had every entrance covered and constantly communicated with each other. And then they sat and waited, 5 of them, each armed with a handgun. This guy even had a high-capacity extended magazine.
Those guys meant business. Oh, 100%. I don't understand why else you go into a house with 5 guys, each with handguns.
Luckily, no one was home, but the homeowner watched the whole ordeal live on his phone and called police. The robbers got away with some electronics and other valuables. What's more, investigators say another home invasion 12 days earlier happened on Hunter Lane, about a half-mile away. That time, a family was held at gunpoint.
Why would you ever need an AR-15 with 30 rounds? Well, let's see. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the guy with the extended mag. 7, 8, 9 for the guy in the back, just to make sure. Why would anybody ever need an AR-15 with a 30-round magazine? Well, it looks like I just showed you why. Anyways, I'm just feeling really proud this morning, not just because the audience is so huge and I'm kind of excited about it. Great success, but also because I got contacted by a family member the other day, and she reached out to me specifically to ask my advice on how to buy, how much should she pay for, and how to acquire and use an AR-15. I was like, no, not evil laugh. Not evil laugh. I was just like, oh, God, yes, God bless it. My heart swelled with pride. I mean, is there really a better compliment that any man can get than to be contacted by a female friend or a family member and say, hey, Austin, I'd like to know a little bit more about how to buy an AR and how to use an AR-15. I just felt just magical, right? And I know that the lefties right now are like, but AR-15s are still legal in this country, so now is probably a good time to get one. No, I'm not advertising AR-15s. I wish an AR-15 company would sponsor me. And with these numbers, and they just might. But that's a huge compliment. If you're a guy and somebody asks you, how to buy an AR-15 and how to use one properly, I mean, I can't wait. So she sent me it as a DM. So I was just like, all right, now this is not the kind of thing we're going to do over a direct message. We are going to have a phone call. Remember those phone calls? We're going to have a phone call. We're going to have a sit down. And you know what? I'm going to recommend to you the same thing that I'm going to recommend to her, which is that I know not all of us are crafty. Certainly I'm not super crafty. But I always recommend that you build your own AR-15s, not because it's cheaper, because it is a little bit cheaper, but because, for example, if you get raided by 6 dudes at night with Glocks and extended mags, you're going to want to know how your AR-15 works. You're going to want to know how to take your AR-15 apart and clean it and put it back together. And if there's ever a malfunction or a jam or a problem, you know and understand how that gun works. If you're going to use a gun for your own self-defense, my recommendation is typically, unless it's like a handgun, like a Glock or a SIG or a Taurus or what have you, my recommendation is if you're going to use a rifle for your own self-defense, that you know how to take that rifle apart and put it back together. So if you don't buy an AR-15, if you buy an AR-15 directly, at least learn how to break it down and clean it and put it back together. But I think it's more fun. It's like playing Legos with guns. That's why the way I kind of look at it. Plus, you can get all kinds of neat little tricked out things. I like to do that where I can, my guns will end up on one of those AR-15 forums where they make fun of plebes who can't afford like really expensive AR-15 gun parts. But whatever, I'm poor. Just because I have 2,000 people watching my stream doesn't mean I make a lot of money. I don't.
God! No,
but hopefully
God,
now with this big of an audience, the money will come. We'll see. Got to buy some coffee from AP for Liberty Shop. But I recommend that you put an AR-15 together because that way you know how to put it together and you know how to take it down. You don't have to make it yourself in order to know how to clean it and take care of it, right? You don't have to do that. You can buy it, break it down, and put it back together. But I just think that there's something quite very wholesome about it. And if you do it with another person, it can be quite a wholesome experience. I've built AR-15s with buddies. Other women who have wanted me to show them how an AR-15 works. We built together, and I've got like big fat fingers. So having a lady who has little tiny fingers who can put some of the pins in together, it's a great way to do it. So anyways, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people who buy AR-15s themselves and you buy them up straight and, they learn how to clean them and put them back together. No problem. Right. But I'm just saying for myself and for the people who I know and love, I think it's a great process. It's a good bonding process. It's just a great way to learn about the firearm. What do you think? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. All right. Well, when we get back, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Some people say that the 14th Amendment prevents prevents Donald Trump from running for president of the United States again. We're going to talk about that. And I want to ask Judge about this problem of immigration that we have, not only here, but in his ancestral homeland of Italy. They've got a huge problem going on right there with the migrant crisis. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupamericashow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupamericashow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. 2,100 people. Is there any way we'll ever beat that? I don't know. But we're certainly going to try. It's definitely the high water mark. A year and 2 weeks ago, the Wake Up America show launched. And we would stream to about 20, 30 people live, and then it was about 50 people live. And then, about 4 weeks ago, it was 150 people live. We were really excited about that. Then all of a sudden, you people came and decided to join us. Now we're at 2,100 people, and we're glad and grateful to have you here. I know that Rumble.com has played a big part in that. So if anybody from Rumble down there in Florida is watching us from the HQ this morning, thank you very much. You've got a care package sent from me and my lovely wife. It should be there in the mail either today or tomorrow. So look out for that and hope you enjoy all your goodies. Thank you for your kindness in helping us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. That's what we're all about here. That's what we talk about every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Make sure that you click like and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on right now so that you can get more of the great content that you've been hearing and listening to so far. It's only going to get better. It's big brain time. Every Wednesday on the show, we bring one of the biggest lights of liberty in the world onto the show. He's a regular guest. He's an old friend. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m., Big Brain Time with the host of one of the greatest podcasts in the world, Judging Freedom, with Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's joining us live right now. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Austin. Congratulations on the increasing numbers. It's truly marvelous. And good morning, everybody, and thank you for watching us.
Glad to have you, Judge. Everybody loves to tune in to hear us having discussions about not only the biggest news of the day, but some of the, more esoteric aspects of libertarian philosophy that people might never have come in contact with if they hadn't come and tuned into our conversations. But let's start, Judge, with the news. Many leftists or liberals and even some Republicans and conservatives and libertarians argue that Donald Trump is ineligible to run for president of the United States due to the 14th Amendment disallowing anyone who engaged in insurrection against the United States as being ineligible for public office. What's your take?
Well, the theory was instigated by 2 conservative Republican academics, very well-respected academics and members of the Federalist Society. And they articulated that theory in a 125-page law review article, which states that the original public understanding, side note, this is the problem with originalism, The original public understanding of the third clause of the 14th Amendment was that government officials on their own who knew that ex-Confederates had been Confederates and were now seeking public office in the country post the Civil War could, on their own, and without any due process, without any evidence other than what they knew. My aunt saw you in a Confederate uniform 16 years ago, could strike their names from the ballot. And this happened hundreds and hundreds of times. And when it was challenged, it was upheld. So their argument is, because the 14th Amendment prohibits those who engaged in or aided insurrection against the country from ever seeking public office, and because there appears to be evidence that Donald Trump, by doing nothing to stop what happened on January 6th, therefore aided it, he can be barred from public office. And the barring of him does not require due process. It can be done on the whim of a state secretary of state or some election official. Now, that's their argument as I understand it. When I made my snarky parenthetical, because, I loved the Pope of originalism, Justice Scalia, this is the problem with original public understanding. Sometimes it's irrelevant. Yeah, in 1866, you pretty much knew who had been rebelling against the Union. It pains me to say that because it was an act of secession, which I believe was constitutional and lawful. Another argument for another time. But the point is, in 1866, it was obvious who had participated in an act of violence against the central government and for whom the 14th Amendment was written. To suggest that today, a state secretary of state, on the basis of what she or he has read on the internet, could bar Trump from running is absurd. Trump hasn't even been accused by federal prosecutors who have been after his jugular for 6 years, hasn't even been accused of being involved in an insurrection. If Trump is convicted of all 91 criminal counts filed against him, none of them disables him under the 14th Amendment from running for public office. These originalists have carried the original mantra, what was the original public understanding of the 14th Amendment, to its most absurd extremes.
That's fascinating how people twist something from so long ago in order to make it relevant to today for their own political agenda, isn't it, Judge? But
it is. I don't know if it's for their political agenda. These two academics, I think, are speaking the way they honestly believe the 14th Amendment should be enforced, because they claim that when they started their research, they were of the view that I am now. It's got to be due process. If Trump were convicted of engaging in an insurrection or aiding an insurrection, then he fits right within the language of the 14th Amendment. The other aspect to this is textualism. The Constitution means what it says. Okay, was it just written to bar those who engaged in the war between the states from joining the federal government, or was it written forever to bar those who engaged in any kind of insurrection from joining the 14th Amendment? Well, my friend Justice Gorsuch would say, and Justice Scalia would have said, it means what it says. It doesn't limit it to just the war between the states.
There are some originalist principles that people like yourself and myself and Justice Clarence Thomas would apply. For example, in the Bruen case, we've been talking about this, governor of New Mexico instituting that 30-day freeze on our individual rights for guns. But when Clarence Thomas said in Bruen that any kind of a gun restriction has to be rooted in a restriction that the founding fathers would have found reasonable at the time, we apply that sort of level of originalism because it fits our agenda of more liberty, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, we did applaud that, and yes, it has a happy outcome, but it is not the best argument. its weakness is it turns judges into historians. The best argument is the one that you and I have been making for as long as we've known each other: natural rights. You have the natural right to self-defense. You have the natural right to the contemporary means of self-defense. It doesn't matter what the founding fathers thought. But Justice Scalia said to me, "It's too Catholic. I'd never get 4 other votes if I started calling things natural rights." That's why he called them pre-political. That's not a bad imitation of his voice.
That was pretty good, actually. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
I think he would have been okay. I'm not even a Catholic, and yet I like the idea of natural rights. I think it's rooted in the concepts of logic and reason. But that's
yes. Well, listen, the greatest modern defender, American defender of natural rights, was Murray Rothbard. Born and raised a Jew, remained culturally Jewish, but a proud atheist during his adult years. He's, to this day, one of the greatest defenders of St. Thomas Aquinas, who rooted natural rights in reason, not in revelation, but in reason. You can reason that we have these rights in order to seek the truth. It doesn't matter if George Washington smoked hemp. Why do I say smoked hemp? Because this is the next level of judicial scrutiny in the Hunter Biden case. If the law today has to be what it was in 1791, well, they were smoking hemp and they carried guns. You can't make this up. Washington became very wealthy by cultivating and selling hemp.
I think it was a crime not to grow it at some point. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, we're grateful and glad to have you here. All 1,600 of you this morning. Good morning. Glad to have you. Thank you, Studio 314, for that donation. We appreciate that very much. He says, Judge Knapp always brings the clarity. Love Wednesdays. Yes, thank you very much. If the Second Amendment isn't my favorite constitutional amendment, it's only because the 14th Amendment exists, Judge. I love the 14th Amendment because I see it as an opportunity, perhaps even greater than the 9th Amendment, for future liberty in the United States because of specifically one of these cases that is a woman from New Orleans or a woman from Louisiana, where if the Supreme Court rules a certain way in this case, then the Supreme Court may actually codify a right to start a business, a right to start and own a business, which has sort of a long and sordid legal history in the United States as to whether or not you have a right to start and own a business. But if this case does what we hope it does, then the 14th Amendment might be used to codify in law the idea that individuals not only have a natural right to self-defense, but a natural right to commerce. Am I correct?
Listen, I've been arguing for 45 years you have a natural right to engage in commercial transactions, and it's protected by the Fifth Amendment, which protects life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And liberty is two people agreeing, you pay me $5, I'll send you 100 widgets. That's the commercial transaction that we have the liberty to engage in. However, what you say is correct. The Supreme Court has not only never found that the right to engage in a commercial transaction or even a profession or a business is a fundamental liberty, but the last time the Supreme Court looked at this, which was 1866 in New Orleans, of all places, which at the time was under military dictatorship from Washington, D.C., the general was Benjamin Barber from Boston, whose nickname was the Butcher. So you can imagine how his troops treated the people that they suppressed. Nevertheless, in that era, the Supreme Court ruled there is no fundamental right to work. I have argued that that has been an error. Justice Scalia has argued it was erroneous. I believe that Justices Thomas and Gorsuch are with us on this as well. So we'll see where this case that you've mentioned, with which I'm unfamiliar, the facts in it I'm unfamiliar with. It's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, this is a social worker. This is a social worker in New Orleans. Ursula Newell Davis has been locked in a multi-year battle with Louisiana to open a care service for special needs children. So in order for her to open this business, she has to prove to the Department of Health in her state that there is a need for her business because at the moment, the State Department of Health says they don't see a need for her business. They've denied more than 70% of applicants, effectively granting a monopoly to incumbents who enjoy reduced competition for special needs children, care services for special needs children. The
I mean,
government.
this is the same state that required a license to build caskets until our friends, I forget the name of the group, one of the libertarian think tanks that's also a law firm, challenged it.
Institute for Justice.
Correct. Wonderful people. Wonderful, wonderful people. A great understanding of the freedom of commerce and the freedom of engaging commercial activity. So even a state as traditional and conservative as Louisiana can have an authoritarian impulse. You must prove to us, well, who the hell are you? You're just the government. What does the government have to say? If she wants to start a business and she succeeds, that means she's built a better mousetrap and people are lining up to at her front door. If she fails, it's her loss. The government should have nothing to do with it.
It's certainly an interesting question, and I do hope that Institute for Justice is successful in this, that the Supreme Court finds an absolute right to start a business, because that would definitely change the landscape in regards to commerce. But of course, the governments, just like the state of New York does with firearms, we're still going to have to continue to fight these tyrannical states. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're grateful and glad to have you here. If you're joining us now today live for the very first time, and I imagine that the multiple thousands of you who are seeing us for the first time, don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel so that you can join us again, because we are every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Wednesdays are always very special because Judge Andrew Napolitano joins us. We call it Big Brain Time because we talk about not only the big news of the day, but we're also talking about some of the more esoteric parts of libertarian philosophy. Judge and I worked together at Fox Business Network from 2010 to 2012 on his show Freedom Watch. And we also worked together with a young man who will be joining us on the show a little bit later today. Remember Todd Seavey, Judge?
Yes.
Yeah, Todd Seavey will actually be joining me this morning at 8:30 to go into a little bit more detail about the next topic that I'd like to breach with you, Judge, on in regards to the 14th Amendment and specifically how it applies to the children of migrants. If someone comes to the United States and has a child in the United States, that child becomes a citizen, at least according to how the 14th Amendment is currently interpreted. This is something that is of great debate in the United States. Many conservatives, and I think even Senator Rand Paul, for example, said that he thinks that this may need to be something that's revisited. There's a term that people use for it that's quite unkind. Some people call them anchor babies, for example, Judge. But what is your take on the 14th Amendment and how it may be applied to these quote unquote anchor babies?
Okay, so that is a huge question. What is my take on the 14th Amendment? I mean, the 14th Amendment, of course, is the most controversial, in part because a lot of people believe it was never ratified. I mean, New Jersey and Ohio rescinded their ratifications after they had sent them in, and the Congress counted it anyway. Nevertheless, it's been well established as a part of the Constitution since 1868. But scholars often split ideological, almost theological hairs about whether or not the 14th Amendment was ever ratified. It has been accepted as a part of the Constitution, and it clearly states whoever's born here is an American citizen. The anchor baby, which is a derogatory term, has been used to criticize a mother or a mother and father who came here during the time of the birth and only to assure that they can stay here, because if the child is an American citizen, the child can't be deported. And the public policy of the country and of every state in the country is that to the extent feasible, families must be kept together. So do the math. By the baby being born here, that virtually assures the parents of staying here, even if the parents got here illegally. Unless it's a crime of violence, the courts are not going to split up that family and put the burden of raising the baby and the harm to the baby being raised by strangers on the state. I disagree with Rand Paul because I don't believe that children should be punished because of the misdeeds or bad judgment of their parents. And the babies born here of mothers who came from another country are as much American citizens as FDR and Ronald Reagan and you and me, because we were born here. And none of us chose to be born here. And none of us had anything to do with where we were born. I mean, you can make the same argument with respect to rape and incest and abortion. You're going to kill the baby because of the crime of the father. I'm not in favor of that.
Judge, how should we deal with this migrant crisis the United States is facing? We have people who are coming across our border, not just from Mexico or South America. We have Chinese nationals making their way to Mexico to come into the United States. We have Russian immigrants coming in across the United States because they know the border is wide open. And specifically, when I see a scenario that's unfolding, such as on the island of Lampedusa, which you helped me pronounce this morning, thank you. You know, your ancestral homeland of Italy is facing a crisis like no country has ever seen before, where on this island, for example, of 4,000 people, a migrant boat was dropped off on this island of 6,000 people who have no means to support themselves. They have no skills or ability to be able to assimilate quickly into the culture of this island. And now Africans outnumber Italians on an Italian island. I mean, how should those citizens react to that kind of a scenario? Is that fair to them?
Well, you know, this is an area that splits libertarians, Austin. Some libertarians believe that when people arrive here, they're arriving on government property and using government streets, and the government can regulate who comes here. Other libertarians believe that the government has no more business regulating who can walk on the streets than it does owning public schools, because the right to travel is a natural human right, just like the right to think and speak and self-defense. And the government can't interfere with that. The problem is, of course, in my view, the welfare state. If we didn't have a welfare state here, if these folks didn't know because they've been told, I'm going to keep Lampedusa out of it because Italy is virtually a socialist country anyway. But if people coming to the United States were not of the belief that, oh, you'll get to go to school, you can go to a hospital, they'll give you a place to live, and they'll even give you a credit card so you can have food, because the Supreme Court has said the states have to provide a basic safety welfare net, which means food, shelter, and clothing. If the welfare state didn't exist, we wouldn't have the migrant problem at all. But the welfare state exists. Both parties support it. It's the haves. I'm using Hans Hermann Hoppe's phrase. It's the haves versus have-nots. And the government takes from the haves and gives to the have-nots.
Yeah, I agree with you, Judge. It's challenging because even like the most liberal or definition of open borders that I have read, you must be familiar with Shika Sud Dalmia from the Reason Foundation. Her definition of open borders itself still states that it doesn't mean that there literally are no borders. She says that nation states should have appropriate powers to be able to account for the national security of their citizens. People don't have a right to come to a nation if they're intent on doing crimes such as terrorism or engaging in human trafficking of minors across borders. So there does need to be some kind of a security system to account for people who wish to come to the United States to commit crimes, to spy for the Communist Chinese Party, for example, or to engage in trafficking of minors, for example. So there does need to be some kind of a security system for nations to prevent that kind of aggression against our natural rights. Isn't that correct?
I wouldn't trust the federal government with any security system. I wouldn't trust it with anything. I don't trust it with the borders. If you read the Constitution, the Constitution says the federal government is in charge of naturalization and the states are in charge of immigration. The feds, in an 1886 Supreme Court opinion, just stole that authority from the states and continued to Bigfoot the states. So Jefferson
then it
and
would be
even
appropriate for the
Hamilton
states
and
to do
those who
so,
wrote the
Judge?
Constitution. Say again?
Then it would be appropriate for the states to do so, for Texas to establish its own security protocol.
Well, it would be appropriate under the Constitution. It would not be appropriate under the natural law. However, under the Constitution, if California let people in with no borders, Texas couldn't stop them from crossing the desert into Texas, because the right of interstate travel is a fundamental liberty. See, fundamental liberty means it can't be taken away absent due process, and due process means the government would have to prove that you did something wrong at a jury trial. It can't just say, we think you're dangerous. We think those children are not yours. Therefore, we're going to interfere with your freedom of travel. So I'm obviously coming down on, no surprise, on the true north side, but I recognize the problems. You know, I live in the New York City metropolitan area. Even though I live out in the country, I'm 75 miles from Manhattan. But Manhattan is a mess now because of migrants who have been shipped here because of the obligation of the state under Supreme Court case law and under New York state law, which mirrors and mimics the Supreme Court case law, to provide food, shelter, and clothing for whoever comes here. Did Joe Biden send them here? No, but he's getting the blame for it. Greg Abbott sent them here. How did they get into the United States? Well, I don't know how they got into the United States. I don't know if these folks are lawfully here or not lawfully here. But I believe that they're here because they know they can benefit from it. Some of them want to work, and some of them want to do jobs that American young folks don't want to do. They should be able to do it, and the feds should have nothing to do with it. If I want to pay some kids to work on my farm, that's between them and me, and Washington should have no say in it. But I could get in trouble if I hired them because they don't have Social Security numbers and they don't pay taxes to the almighty federal government.
These are the kinds of things I remember when we worked together that would get you the angry letters at Fox when you would say things like this, Judge. We appreciate you very much, Judge. You're very brave to stay so true north, even on issues so complex and difficult as these. I'd love it, Judge, if you would share with us who you have coming up on your amazing show, Judging Freedom.
Oh, I have one of my tent poles. You know that phrase from your television days. The person that produces the highest ratings, Tony Schaefer, Colonel Schaefer, at 11 this morning, and my tent pole, Scott Ritter, at 3:30 this afternoon. The latest on Ukraine and why the American media is beginning to doubt how much longer the West can keep doing this. Why is the American media doubting it? Because the CIA is doubting it. And the CIA wants those doubts out there to give old Joe an off-ramp, if you follow me.
Well, if the CIA says that, I tend to believe the opposite. Then that sounds like Ukraine must be winning. Judge Andrew Napolitano, the host of the Judging Freedom podcast and his weekly column at judgenap.com, his weekly appearance here on the Wake Up America show. Thank you, Judge. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Likewise, Austin. All the best to you.
Thank you very much. This is the island of Lampedusa. 6,000 African migrants dumped off on an island with an Italian population of 4,000 people. And here as well, you can see a migrant in Italy who assaults a minor here on the street, grabs a minor on the street, and then Italian citizens took the justice in their own hands.
Dale fuerte, dale!
That's what they do to people who can't keep their hands to themselves there in Italy. Here's what Louis C.K. had to say about the illegal immigration crisis. Yeah, actually, we're going to talk about that with my buddy Todd Seavey. He was a writer and producer with The Judge and me on Freedom Watch back in the day. We're going to talk to him about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show, wakeupAmericaShow.com. Don't forget, click like and subscribe. 1,300 people. What's with all the likes? See some more. We'll be right back. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
And it shouldn't be so great here in America. Good morning. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. That was kind of an odd take there from comedian Louis C.K. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. It's nice to see all 1,100 of your bright, smiling faces this morning. I can't actually see them, but I'm picturing you all, and you're probably naked. Sorry, it just helps me to not be so nervous. We got such a big audience. If you're enjoying the content that you're watching this morning, don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel, because I know what happens. You're getting your kids ready for work in the morning. Sometimes you tune in for like 15 minutes and you're like, man, I really like this Austin Peterson kid. That was a great show. I definitely want to tune in again. But then you forget to click subscribe. Well, don't forget, click subscribe right now so that you can join us when we're live every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show streams. We're all about economic freedom and personal liberty. We're grateful to have you here. Grover Bentley says he's at work and he can't be naked. LOL. Very funny, Grover. Thank you for your support and for being a monthly subscriber, Grover. Thank you very much for helping to sustain the show and help us to spread our principles and ideals. What the hell is Louis C.K. talking about? You know, we had a good conversation with Judge Napolitano just a few minutes ago about this issue of immigration, and he had a legal standpoint on it. But one of the people who's actually had probably a bigger impact on my thinking on libertarian ideals than he probably even knows, I'm going to give him a lot of credit for it. He's an author of a book called Libertarianism for Beginners, and he was also a writer and producer on that show Freedom Watch. He's joining us now live from New York City. His name is Todd Seavey, and he's here with us now. Good morning, Todd. Thanks for joining us today.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we won't get into this, but I'll just say as an aside very briefly, you were actually one of the people who really made me think about the rights of animals when you were talking to us about perhaps the more intelligent an animal is, the more likely they should have rights. So that was something I've always thought about, and thank you for that, Todd. But let's talk about the rights of humans, because when I see Louis C.K. saying that he wants to bring immigrants to our country to make our country worse, you could say that he's joking, but if he were joking, then I would assume that meant that he actually believed the opposite. But I don't think he actually does believe the opposite. I think Louis C.K. thinks that actually immigrants coming to the United States will make our country worse. What's your take on that video?
Well, I think often comedians aren't saying exactly what they think is true, but they're also not saying exactly what they think is false. They're sort of saying things in a sloppy, artistic way. And I think in a way, he's close to making the free market argument for immigration when he says things like that. When he uses phrases like things will sort of slosh around and then they'll find a new level. I mean, that's not such a bad description of the way prices work, you know? So if you get a huge new wave of workers, initially, there might be a small reduction in overall wages, but over the long haul, production will now be cheaper, so prices will come down, and it will be easier for those workers themselves to afford the more easily produced goods. And, you know, at first, you might find that you have a little extra trouble finding housing in your neighborhood, but there'll be a boom in things like, you know, Airbnb or new apartment construction if laws don't forbid it. Actually, right here in New York City, where I am, there's an amusing example of government working in two opposite directions at the same time, counterproductively. So at the same time that the mayor is insisting that New York is full, and we can't take any more immigrants, which is hilarious, you know, by historical standards. But at the same time, he's insisting New York is full. The New York City government is working to effectively ban Airbnb. So you've got people all over the city willing to take in outsiders and probably perfectly willing to take in a lot of tourists from other countries and immigrants and be paid for it. But they're making it harder for people to do that and then whining that they can't find housing for the tiny handful of new migrants showing up. And likewise, prices, you know, would eventually adjust to newcomers, and the important thing is overall, it would be more efficient if people could go where the best jobs for them are and could buy goods from the most efficient places to buy goods. And I should also, you know, you mentioned human rights earlier. It's not easy to say this sometimes to a really patriotic crowd, but Louis C.K. is sort of on the right track in utilitarian terms when he says that one chunk of geography on the earth is not the only thing that matters. I mean, we do care to some extent about how happy people all over the globe are, and they'll be happier if they're allowed to travel to where they want to be. And I often think that young conservatives in particular, being anti-immigration, is partly a function of them being too young to remember the Berlin Wall coming down. I mean, the greatest victories for markets and individual rights in perhaps all of human history occurred in the 20th century when fascism ended and when communism collapsed, and in particular when the Berlin Wall came down and people could start moving freely in and out of Eastern Europe. In fact, even before the Berlin Wall literally physically came down, it came down in a political sense in that the Eastern European countries gave up on trying to prevent all immigration. And once people could migrate and show what they preferred, which was markets and freedom, the game was over for communism. So if you claim to be anti-communist, you should definitely want people to travel and engage in markets.
Oh, Donald Trump
Or so I
said,
would claim. And I think on some level,
okay,
I think on some level, Louis C.K. understands that.
Perhaps, but the way that he articulated initially, I would say, was rather inartful. And speaking of inartful articulations, Donald Trump says in 2015, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. So some are good people, but they're not all good people, Todd.
True. And it would be better to focus on arresting the bad people than on tarring everyone with the same broad brush. In fact, police officers themselves will tell you that if they didn't have to spend their time arresting all drug users, that's changing a little now. But in the late 20th century, they were supposed to arrest everyone, including all the pot users, and that wasted a lot of time they could have spent specifically arresting murderers and burglars who were the real problem. And likewise, you don't keep out everyone south of the border, south of Texas, because some of them are rapists and murderers. You arrest the rapists and murderers. That's what the law is supposed to do. And it'll be more focused and more intelligent if you stick to that mission instead of trying to stop everyone. And of course, people never apply this sort of anti-immigration logic consistently to things like interaction between U.S. states. So, for instance, some people crossing the border from Vermont into New Hampshire will be violent criminals. Some of them will be burglars. That doesn't mean you put up a wall and prevent all people from Vermont from crossing over into New Hampshire. That would be insane. And some of the anti-immigration people get so caught up in the anti-immigration logic, they're almost willing to go that far. I remember I think it was on the message boards of the Libertarian Mises Institute, there was an argument about immigration. And at one point, people were talking about how if you took the anti-immigration logic far enough, each state in the U.S. would be able to block people from other states from ever entering unless that state's government said you can come in. And the sarcastic reaction of some of the right-wing trolls on the message board was to say, oh no, we won't be able to have new visitors to Alabama from other states. What a nightmare. So, but I would contend that is a nightmare. It frightens me enough to think of the U.S. being an isolated place cut off from the rest of the world. But I certainly don't want to be stuck in Alabama and told by its government that I'm cut off from the rest of the world. That seems blatantly insane.
Okay, hold on. Todd, we're getting some criticism in the chat, and I want them to be heard. Amren article narrations. I'm guessing American Renaissance. A lot of I won't say anti-immigration, but probably not as free immigration as you or I. They want to be heard, so let's let them be heard. He says you're saying such goofy platitudes. He says only arrest the rapists and murderers. No shit. The problem is identifying them first. Now he makes a good point here, Todd, because as someone who's done the homework here, not only have I read the Mises Institute, but I read the Cato Institute, and I wish that one day they would stop. My two friends would stop fighting. Mom and Dad would stop fighting, but that doesn't seem like it'll ever happen. But from the most liberal definition of open borders that I've read from our mutual friend, Shika Sud Dalmia at the Reason Foundation, the way that she describes open borders specifically in her paper is one that states that this is not a view of open borders such as the one that exists now, where we're talking about literally they're streaming across the border with no security protocol whatsoever. But the most liberal definition of open borders that Shika has written says that, yes, a nation state should have appropriate powers hesitate to use the word rights because I don't believe in governments with rights, but that a state should have appropriate powers to be able to provide for the national security or the defense of the people of that state, to prevent people who are legitimately coming here to engage in acts of terrorism, people who are coming in here to engage in drug crimes that are legitimate drug crimes, not like as you and I would understand it because we want to end the war on drugs. That's an argument for another day. But also those who engage in the human trafficking of minors across our borders. And the only way, Todd, for us to be able to do that is to have some sort of a process to ensure that if someone is bringing children across the border, that they're not doing so for the purposes of taking them ultimately to Epstein's Island or, to, some Democrats, party in Hollywood, for example. So there, even by that, working by that definition of open borders, Todd, there is an argument to be made for a proper security and onboarding protocol, is there not?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of complex counterfactuals all lumped in together at the same time there. So I would sort of have to know, I guess, like a good sci-fi writer, which factors are we changing hypothetically, and which are we not changing, and maybe which order are we changing them in chronologically. So it gets complicated. But I would say while we're trying to sort that out, clarity in language, just like clarity in law, is very important. So just as it's bad to talk about all Mexicans as if they're an invasion, when what you want to do with words like invasion is identify, violent foreign military threats, it's also dangerous to use broad, sloppy terms like human trafficking. I mean, if what you mean is you're kidnapping and imprisoning 14-year-olds, that's bad, and we want to crack down on that. But sometimes when people say human trafficking, all they really mean is travel that hasn't been approved by the government. Travel
Agreed,
of
but
adults.
let's not argue semantics, Todd, because you and I are both on the same side on this issue largely, and you and I know that the type of trafficking that I'm talking about, you should use my definition, of course, is that which is being used for the rape of minors. And so that kind of trafficking is the kind of trafficking that definition is what we should be working on. Because like you and like Judge Napolitano, I happen to believe in a more libertarian view of immigration and that it does provide an overall benefit. But also there has to be some kind of a balance with our national security rights, that when you have members of the Chinese Communist Party being caught coming across our border, there does have to be some kind of a protocol to ensure that we don't have malicious terrorists coming across our border, or state terrorists coming across our border in order to do harm. So, what I'm trying to get you to say, Todd, and perhaps you're not going to say it, is is it reasonable to expect that some kind of a protocol such as there was during the Ellis Island years, even at the great waves of mass immigration in the United States, is appropriate to have a functional, healthy, I'm going to use the D word that people hate, a functional, healthy democracy, or an American republic? We're not a democracy. It's a republic. God damn it. I'm going to get angry letters. But isn't it appropriate for us to have some kind of a security protocol to vet people who come here, not only for the fear of terrorism or for government actors, but also for the fears of a pandemic?
Oh, well, okay. So that's like 4 different threats simultaneously. So we're talking about communists, child molesters, let's see, disease carriers, and I think there was at least one other, some other sort of violent criminal.
Good list.
And I would just say that if there are millions of people crossing back and forth across the border, and those specific things are your concerns, the more you try to stop everyone, the more you're going to waste time and resources you could have spent pursuing each of those crimes, which might actually require some detective work. I mean, like and of course, when you have a big sloppy enforcement mechanism like a whole southern border wall, we already know lots of people dig their way under it or go around it.
Sure, Todd, but the best way to prevent a disease is to not let the disease in your body in the first place, right? To have a vaccine in place. I know I just triggered a lot of there's a lot of triggering going on with the words we're using here, but you get the vaccine so that you don't get the disease in the first place. I'm not trying to say immigrants are a disease, but I am referring to COVID-19 and other possible pandemics, right? You don't want to let the disease in your country and then go hunt it down later, Todd.
Well, I mean, if lots of Swedes visit, there might be an increase in ski accidents. But, again, you wouldn't respond by forbidding all immigration from Europe. You would, focus specifically on whether ski slopes are letting untrained people ski. Like they're very narrow, tailored responses to these specific problems. And to tar all immigrants with the same brush, I mean, I'm not just worried because that's bigoted. I'm worried because it's stupid and sloppy and doesn't precisely address the problems you're concerned about. And some of those problems would go away if we weren't trying to enforce the wrong rules. So if we think immigration in general is something the government should crack down on, a lot of energy is going to be wasted trying to, track every entering immigrant. If we think drugs are something the government should crack down on, you're probably going to end up with helicopters flying across the border into Latin America to shoot up fields of drugs being grown there. Something that, it's a problem the government itself created and then complains that it can't solve, even while it's crossing borders to solve this problem, which results in the cartels getting more money and being more able to fund crime north of the border. So I think a lot of these problems are self-created. They're created by government, or they're created by attempts to isolate cultures from each other when it should be individuals deciding where to work, where to live, where to travel. I mean, there were barely even passports until around the late 19th, early 20th century. If free people travel, let them do so. I think it would have been horrifying if, say, Lithuania were significantly closer to the US, and as communism was collapsing, the Lithuanians all started fleeing and saying, "Oh, we'd rather be in America, we'd rather be free." And the response of American conservatives had been, "Oh no, there might be some socialists amongst the Lithuanians, don't let them in." I mean, that probably would have caused communism to last longer, which is the last thing we want. So let people go where the opportunities are, let them use their own property as they choose, and let them vote with their
then
feet.
you don't believe in the physical removal of communists from society?
Well, I would want great clarity on what you mean by that. So, like, if the communist tries to steal something, then arrest him. I don't want to start arresting people just for their bad ideas, I should say. And I don't think if you're going to start arresting people for their ideas, presumably that horrific plan is one that you would apply to people who were born here as well as people from elsewhere, right? Like if the statistics start to show that an American-born Eastern European is more likely to be a socialist than
I'm more interested. I'm more likely interested in a trade. I don't want to necessarily deport. So how about this? Let's compromise, and we can deport Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and we can import a good Cuban from Cuba who wants to come to the United States, start a business, and vote Republican.
Well, the easiest way to achieve results like that is to let the individuals travel. I assume she was born here, but if she decided she'd rather be in China, let her go. And if the Cuban wants to be here, let him come. Individuals can sort these things out better than governments. And in fact, when governments sort them out, the problems tend to last longer and the solutions tend to be more clumsy. We don't want that.
Todd, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? We've thoroughly ticked everyone off so far this morning. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Well, I guess on another comedy note, my column on splicetoday.com, where I write a weekly column, my column today there is about Russell Brand and his good and bad points. Looks like he might be a serial sexual harasser. On the other hand, he's also been an interesting anarchist in recent years and sounding more like a populist and less like a leftist. So I talk a little bit about his good and bad points in today's column, and you can find me there every week.
I'm starting a new movement, Todd, these days, because I think that Russell Brand has angered the globalist elites, and that's why they're coming for him. So I think that people are innocent until proven guilty. So I've started a new movement. It's called Believe All Men. All men. So hashtag Believe All Men. Todd Seavey, thank you very much for your time today and for your insight on this topic. Very controversial, but we appreciate you very much. And we hope to have you back again real soon.
Oh, thanks very much.
Thanks very much. That's Todd Seavey. Read his column at Splice Today. There you go. Todd Seavey. He and I work together on Judge Napolitano's show, Freedom Watch. It's a tough issue there. I got to say, I'm kind of torn. I do think we need to have a security policy to vet people who come to the United States for infectious disease and for the possibility of the threats of terrorism, spies, and human trafficking. Gotta have, I believe, at least, I do think that we need to have a better immigration proposal. I don't believe, like a lot of Republican populists do, that we need less legal immigration. I think we need less illegal immigration and more legal immigration. But I don't know. There's no incentive for the politicians to solve these problems. They all benefit from it. Democrats need the votes. Republicans want the labor. What are we going to do? I don't know. Tell you what. If you are tired of drinking woke coffee, and I know you are, did you see that Starbucks employee was taking whipped cream and wearing a diaper and putting the whipped cream down his diaper? Ew, what the hell is wrong with people? Stop drinking woke coffee. Drink coffee that the founding fathers would have been proud of. My wife Stephanie and I have brought to you the most delicious coffee in the world. And I'm not saying that lightly. It is amazing. My favorite single origin Colombian Thomas's Painkiller. I drink it almost every day. Today I'm drinking the Jeffersonian Java. It's absolutely delicious. It's a premium coffee for coffee lovers. If you're the type of person who goes to the store and drinks leftover 2-day or 3-day old coffee that's instant coffee or something like that, we're probably not for you. But if you love premium coffee, if you drink coffee and you're like, God, I love to drink coffee that tastes amazing, Founding Flavors Coffee is for you. And when you see the price on the website, just know that is the price delivered to your door. And you can save money if you buy more than one bag. The discounts start to add up. So the price that you see is the price that you get delivered to your door at apforlibertyshop.com. And we are a lower price than other premium coffee brands. So have you tried it? Today's the day. Visit apforlibertyshop.com. At apforlibertyshop.com, you can get not only delicious Founding Flavors coffee that the founders would have been proud of, but you can also get awesome Don't Tread on Me shirts, phone cases, all of that created by me and my lovely wife, Stephanie Peterson, brought to you. Today, I think that the average of the Wake Up America show, the average audience was over 1,000. Today was the biggest show in Wake Up America show history. Every day, we're setting new records. I'm excited. Thank you to the Cantina crew for supporting us. Thank you to our friends at rumble.com for putting us up on the front page. Please give it up. Big ups for Rumble. I'm so grateful for all of you right now for joining us here this morning, and grateful to Rumble. Don't forget, if you haven't, to become a monthly subscriber, you get a 20% discount at apforlibertyshop.com. Today's the day. Become a monthly subscriber to the show. Get that 20% discount, and at the end of each month, you might even win a free prize from the shop. And if you are a monthly subscriber at our $17.76 a month level or above, you get a free gift in the mail right away. So there you go. wakeupamericashow.com/support. And we'll see you tomorrow. Do you think that tomorrow we'll be able to get more than 2,100 viewers? I don't know. I'm kind of scared. The success, it's frightening. First I was afraid of failure, now I'm afraid of success. Don't live in fear, AP. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tee and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. And visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.